These are super cool. Here's the Harley Davidson live wire. Super cool.
Today is September 23rd. I'm Eric Planey.
Hello, I'm Lucas Finko.
Hello, Lucas Finko. And together we are the Pirates of Clean Tech.
Yar! Yar!
I do yar. You kind of arg.
Arg, yeah.
Our friend Catherine does an arg.
Isn't it Talk Like a Pirate Day? When is that?
That was September 19th. So to those who missed it, happy belated Talk Like a Pirate Day.
We should have had a whole thing on that.
We will next year. Next year we'll have a major celebration.
Yeah, it'll be great.
Anyways, I hope you're well. Everything going well over there in the land of New Jersey?
Oh, everything's great. It's kind of weird here because the police's firing range is like across the valley from me. So it sounds like there's like a major war going on. I know it's kind of weird, but everything's good. Yeah.
Well, that would remind me of my senior year in high school when my hometown had the third highest murder rate per capita in the United States.
Oh no, that's not good.
Yeah, day after I graduated high school, I witnessed a drive-by shooting.
Were you packing?
I was not packing. I was running. Thankfully, the incident I witnessed, nobody was hurt, but it was still pretty scary.
That's good. You know, our thoughts and prayers are with the people in Louisville today, and
yeah,
the people in Oregon and California with the wildfires. So,
yeah, it seems like there's a little bit of a reprieve on the wildfires, slightly, I think. But obviously, good point. Thoughts and prayers always.
Yeah. Also, Houston with the massive rainfall and storm surge they had, and then Nova Scotia got hit by a hurricane. So there you go.
Yeah, I guess climate change isn't real though.
2020, man, it's like the worst year ever by far.
Well, I was going to transition to something joking. Not sure if I should be, if that's appropriate, but
go for it.
I've been watching a lot of Howard Stern to just watch his speaking style and his interview style so that we can become better podcasters. And he's really amazing. But last week, he really set me off because he came out and said that John Bonham is the greatest drummer of all time in rock history over Neil Peart of Rush. And the debate got so frantic and heated. They brought in Lars Ulrich of Metallica, who actually had a lesson from Neil Peart when he was younger, and Metallica was opening for Rush.
Yeah,
said nothing but incredible, reverent things towards Neil Peart, but at the end said John Bonham's the greatest drummer of all time.
Wow.
I don't know about you in the listening audience. I think both of them are phenomenal, jokes aside.
That's kind of funny because I happened across some Trump interviews on that show, and they're quite interesting. I don't know if you have to be 18 or older to listen to such discussions, but quite eye-opening, very interesting.
Yeah, let's move on from the T word.
Sorry, I'm
going to go back to drumming.
Not supposed to be political, right?
Well, anyways, my wife gave me some constructive feedback over the last couple of weeks. I've been a little too stiff. So I asked Lucas, let's have a little bit more fun. Let's be able to relax. I've had a really tough week. A lot going on right now. Most of it good, but just very hectic. So I've got my Saranac Pale Ale. Fantastic beer if you guys haven't had it. And Lucas, I think you've got some illegal moonshine from across the state line, right?
Yeah, I'm drinking my homebrew, so it leaves a little to be desired, but I love it because I made it. So.
Well, I just want to say, first off, thanks to Sarah Fitz, our guest last week. We've had such great feedback about her. Go on our website, go on our YouTube page. We can point you to her book for the legal profession on distributed energy law. It's fantastic and timely. She was really wonderful, as all our guests have been. And then also, over the weekend, we launched episode 2 of our electric vehicle reviews. Our fellow pirate friend, Catherine Valdez, did a review of her 2019 Nissan Leaf. And I really love that review because she's able to talk about the performance of an electric vehicle and she's able to talk about the practicality as a parent of 3 girls. And we don't have enough of that. I think you can expand the EV universe by talking about its everyday use and practicality. So we had a lot of fun there.
Yeah, and that's only on YouTube because the point is to look at the cars. So if you want it on the podcast, just let me know and I can post it.
Yeah, but I think that's right. Who listens to a car review? Of course, I probably won't.
Maybe people do.
That's true.
Yeah.
Well, anyways, thank you again to everybody. We have a few articles today. We're going to switch up the lineup a little bit because Lucas has some really informative ones. And we thought we would get to those first because then we'll have a little bit more light fun towards the end of the podcast today.
Yeah, that sounds great. So we'll get right into it. This story came out literally like an hour after we recorded our last episode. So it was totally relevant to what we were talking about. FERC finally came out with a DER order for wholesale markets, forcing wholesale markets to include small distributed energy resources. These are like a battery in your garage. This is like a solar panel on your roof. This is your EV vehicle to grid connection, right? So now we have the regulatory mandate that the big boys in the energy industry have to accept you and your battery and your EV and your solar into the big boy wholesale market. So this is the order that did it. This is kind of amazing and groundbreaking and unbelievable. And again, they only have 3 commissioners, so it was passed 2-1. So this comes into effect, I think, in 90 days. Large utilities and ISOs and RTOs have to come up with a plan for how to do this. It looks like the plan is going to be aggregates, so they're not going to include everybody's little 10 kilowatt hour power wall in the wholesale markets. You'll have to work through an aggregator, but the point is you'll be able to contribute to the future grid with your energy investments in your home and in your parking lot and your multifamily building will be able to contribute to the grid. So this is really great. It'll take a little while to understand all the details because each ISO and each RTO and each utility is going to have to figure this out. They also noted that smaller utilities are exempted. So anything under 4 million megawatt hours is not required by the rule. It's kind of like a small business exception for most regulations. So that's not a big deal. But this is cool. This is groundbreaking. This is the future of the grid. And regulations like this will make sure it happens. And this is great. So we're moving forward. I take back everything I said about FERC last week. I take it back. I love you now, FERC. We can make up and get back together. So this is great. Yeah, I agree. It's a game changer. It's great.
Well, I think first off, let's just take all the credit for this. I think it was definitely our podcast that moved the needle, and FERC went to church and
I agree.
confessed their sins and came out and changed it.
I agree.
Jokes aside, though, it's great to see this. I guess there's a couple questions I do have for you. I'm really going to go with a couple questions before I have a comment. One is, if you have a solar panel on your roof, if you're already distributed and you've got a battery in your basement, do you already have access from that program that you're possibly into an aggregator, or do consumers have to go and sign up for an aggregator, or will an aggregator reach out to them?
No, maybe a little bit of both. So we'll have to see. Those are a lot of details that aren't hammered out yet, but
right.
Probably you'll have to reach out. Maybe they'll contact the people who are selling batteries and solar and just put that in your package, and it'll be an option when you buy that or what have you, or maybe they'll work to utilities. So we'll see.
It's one thing. The only comment I have about this is where I think this makes some sense, though. And let's just put it out there. 2020 is a political year. It's all about red states and blue states. I don't know how much that moves the needle here. I don't want to be a conspiracy theorist. But in the Northeast here, obviously you've got blue states, and the blue states are all in about renewable energy. Out West, you have red states whose citizens are all in about renewable energy. They're Teddy Roosevelt Republicans. They are ones that believe in the power of maintaining the environment there. So I think politically it makes sense for FERC to do this because there's probably some states in play that want to see the ability for people who have distributed energy capabilities to sell that into the markets. So I think it's a great win, and I'm very happy to see it.
Yeah, I saw a great article about how young Republicans are bringing kind of, a climate forward viewpoint to the Republican Party. So I welcome that. And I think that's great. I think it's a bipartisan issue. That's why we talk about it. So, yeah.
Look, put a little bit of history on that. It was an unintended consequence of Al Gore, who no, jokes aside, they talk about this. Politically, he was the one that politicized environmental regulation and sustainability. He didn't mean to, but there were Republicans before Gore got hot and heavy that were really for energy independence.
Huh.
So they looked at it from an energy independence standpoint. They looked at it from a trade deficit standpoint. So I think this is kind of moving the needle back to center. So it's a great thing overall.
Yeah. And then fracking gave us energy independence, which is kind of weird.
There you go.
Yeah. Gore invented climate change, right? I'm just kidding.
Boo.
So I found this article. This is another thing I've been on my soapbox about for a long time. The biggest criticism is that if we go 100% renewable, the costs are going to skyrocket. And so, conservatives and coal advocates and natural gas advocates love to put that out there because it hits right in with another liberal goal, which is, equality and low income mitigation. And so this article really speaks to me about that. 100% renewable by 2035, maybe 90% might be better. Consider the opportunity cost. This is by Brad Roos at Clean Technica, August 31st, 2020. I'd love to have 100% clean energy by 2035. I agree with him. I just think 90% or even 80% is achievable, affordable, doable, and it's not crazy, and it doesn't cause major disruption and huge price changes, increases like we would see with 100%. And in many cases, the planet has natural carbon sinks, so we don't have to be 100% clean. We don't have to. I mean, we still have to talk about the carbon in the atmosphere already and sequestering it, but getting to 80-90% could make us sustainable, and it's not crazy unaffordable. And so I love to look at articles like this and talk about opportunity costs and talk about solutions to get there. They like carbon pricing. I've seen that again. I kind of agree with that as long as it's used for CCS. I'm a huge fan of 80-20 rule. They have that in here. So I don't know. I just love this article, and I agree. Let's, we can make 80-90% renewables without making enemies and keeping everybody happy and keeping energy affordable. That sounds like a win-win to me.
Yeah, first off, I agree 100%. And hats off to you because you've talked about this in prior episodes. So you have been kind of on the ball about this. This reminds me, I'm going to put my Trekkie hat on for a second. When the Enterprise crew in Star Trek First Contact, they go back in time, and this woman from the past ends up on their ship, and she never saw a force field before. She said, we don't have that technology. And the captain said, that's because this technology hasn't been invented yet. And what that makes me think about, here's the great analogy. What this makes me think about is that if you spend resources very strategically and smartly only to get to 90% now, you're saving capital and resources. So when new technology is invented in 2025, 2030, 2035, that could have more of an impact on carbon reduction, we haven't spent everything out there. We haven't put so much into sunk costs on certain types of technologies that nobody has capacity or willingness to spend money on next generation technologies. So I see a little bit of that here in this discussion. We just may have better carbon capture capabilities 20 years from now that could make up for what we didn't put on the table today. So it's really about being a little bit smarter. And then kind of a really obscure point to this is I'm still a big fan. The only thing, that Trump has touted on the green side is the Trillion Tree program brought forth by the World Economic Forum. And that in itself would be a very legitimate way to capture carbon. So everything that goes on from a technology incubation standpoint in this story can also be complemented by other carbon saving initiatives that are maybe expensive, but also simple, like more trees throughout the whole global grid.
Yeah. And they say here too, going from 90 to 100% presents significant challenges, and a pathway was not even considered in this other study. They report from University of California, Berkeley School of Public Policy. So, yeah. Okay, so I'm going to move on. We wanted to do something fun for this episode, and I got to go first, so mine is first. So you'll see Eric's cars in a little bit. So we wanted to do a review of kind of what's out there right now and what's hot as far as EV goes. So I wanted to look at EV motorcycles, and I actually happened to search for it this week. So I had it ready. So here are the 18 best electric motorcycles. This is from Jacob Osborne at Man of Many. These are super cool. Here's the Harley Davidson Livewire. Super cool. I really love that Harley Davidson has been forward leaning with tech for a while now. They had their first fuel injected bike a while ago, and they kind of shocked people. So it's a little less shocking to see. 146-mile range. Look at that, 95 miles an hour. Super cool. Here's the Zero SR. I've been looking at Zero for a while. I've been wanting one of their bikes. These are great. 179-mile range. You know, EVs should really make more sense as the weight of the vehicle gets smaller. So I really think, actually, I would expect higher performance numbers from these motorcycles because they're so light. You should be able to use, these are tiny batteries, 13 kilowatt hours. That's a fifth of the Chevy Bolt. And you get 100 miles range. So because they're so light, they're 500 pounds, they're not 2,000 pounds. Very cool bikes here. There's a classic one, the Brutus V9. It kind of even looks like it has exhaust, which is interesting. This one, totally weird. Look at this Joe Hammer J1.2. It looks like some weird abstract art. That's really cool.
It is. It looks Swedish.
Yeah, here's one that's kind of an on-off road, like around the world kind of bike, the Tactica T-Race Diabolica. That's pretty cool, 100 miles. Here's a sports bike looking one, the Damon Hypersport. Really cool, 200 plus mile range. And of course, you got to have your Vespa. Vespa has a Electrica. That's interesting. It's probably super cheap, 62 miles range. Here's a Go-Go Vespa. And then Honda has their scooter also, the PCX Electric. 25-mile range, I don't get that. I've noticed that too. Honda's kind of lagging in the EV space. They better get on that. Here's an off-road bike, the Altomotives Redshift. I'm trying to get down the Victory Impulse TT, the Sora. The other thing I'll warn you about, look at this one. $77,000. Okay, so this is not for your typical consumer. But actually, they talk about the Lightning here. Lightning is considered to be the world's fastest electric motorbike. It does 0 to 60 in 2.2 seconds, my friend. Okay, no car will do that. Obviously, because it's light. It's got a ton of torque. And I'm willing to bet you spin the wheel the whole time, but whatever. 218 miles an hour you can do on this bike. It's crazy. And, okay, so that may be a ton of money. They make a very affordable version called the Lightning Strike. It's available now. You can reserve one online. Look, it even looks like this is the transmission case. They made the inverter the shape of a transmission, which is really cool.
Very cool. Very cool.
No exhaust pipe, which is super cool. Because you know how they always stick it on the side and it looks dumb? None of that. 150 miles, 150 mile an hour top speed. You can reserve it right now. It's only $20K. You can get an awesome EV for $20K, and then they got a bare bones one here that'll go 83 miles. And this tar form is really cool looking. So really cool. Oh, and this one's awesome too. This Arc Vector, but these are limited supply, so probably super expensive. But so there are a lot of options out there. A lot of cool startups and new companies making EV bikes. Really cool to look through this.
Yeah, well, first off, awesome article. I mean, when I looked at that Harley, I'm like, if RoboCop does another sequel, that's going to be his bike. I mean,
probably.
You mentioned Honda really quick. Well, a couple of things about Honda. One is Look, Honda hasn't been prolific on the EV side. They have been dabbling in the fuel cell, and their latest insight is they have a fuel cell hybrid and plug-in version. But they just announced last week a tie-up with General Motors for EV and battery technology.
Oh,
So Honda and GM have had a joint venture relationship with the Cruise automation division that GM has, right? So Honda's been a part of that. So I'm really happy about that because Honda and GM both have a big presence in my home state of Ohio. So I think Honda will be playing catch up very quickly. I think they were just a little bit more deep diving the fuel cell, and they got to diversify into plug-in and battery. This is a great article, man. Yeah, some of these are outrageously expensive, but some of these are not. And again, it's a nice proposition. If you live in a warmer climate area and you can use this for your commute, think about all the maintenance costs, gas savings, etc., by commuting in one of these puppies, and just think of the cool factor as well.
and there's so much fun. The torque on these things are crazy. You could have so much fun on these.
Wear your helmets, folks. I'm serious. Wear your helmets. We all have friends that have had skirmishes and brush-ins. So
Yeah, I know. All right, Eric. Let's look at some cars.
yes, enough of this two-wheel bugaboos. So we always try to find different sources. I'm here. Jess Will, writing for Rolling Stone of all things, just came out. I can't remember what, but was it 13 cars? I believe.
I think so. Yeah.
13 cars in 2021. So, 12. Sorry, lucky number 12. So scroll down a little bit. Again, what I like about this is you're seeing the OEM stepping up. Let's start with the one that made the headlines about 6 months ago, the 2021 Mustang Mach-E. I think it's gorgeous. And I think this was one of the smartest things Ford did. A lot of purists said, we can't call it a Mustang. But you know what? If they called it anything else, it would not have grabbed the headlines like it did calling it a Mustang. And I think that is a gorgeous SUV. I think it has a little bit of the Mustang spirit to it. So I love it.
I love it.
They said this thing will be 0 to 60 faster than a Porsche 911 GTS. And they're talking about 300 on range and 40,000. And you figure you're still going to have some, Ford probably has a lot of tax credits left. States are going to have some tax credits. Definitely worth taking a look at.
I want one.
See? Look at that. He wants one.
I want one.
You tow your motorbikes. Keep going. Hummer. Now, you got to give General Motors credit on bringing back the Hummer nameplate because Hummer was notoriously known for being the anti-green vehicle.
Yeah.
But everyone hated it until you saw one, and you're like, wow, that's kind of badass. I'm going to say badass on today's podcast. I think this is really cool. We don't have a lot of details on it yet, but GM's got a lot of sources of technology. So, they're talking about, I think, 1,000 horsepower on this one. It's incredible, 400-mile range. It's going to have a little bit of a Jeep, roof panel removing, et cetera, and good old Akron, Ohio native LeBron James is helping seal the deal by endorsing these things. So I'm all in. Bring the electric truck.
Awesome.
Love it, hate it, whatever. Tesla Cybertruck is coming, and you know what? It's pretty freaking cool. I love the fact that just Tesla doesn't believe in the norms of auto design, of the way to do things, right? Tesla is Tucker. He's the Dodge brothers. He's the Packard brothers. He's the innovator. Elon Musk is, that is. So this is a fantastic truck. I don't know if we have all the details, but they're talking about, I think, $70,000 for a 3-motor option, but then $39,000 for a 1. I think this is not going to be for the faint of heart, and it's probably not going to be the most practical vehicle we think, but I guess we will find out. So
yeah.
Pulsar. So this is kind of a Volvo's division, and this is their Tesla Model 3 fighter. I think this is one of the most gorgeous, not just electric vehicles. I think this is one of the best looking cars I've seen in a long time. Anyone who follows car design, I think the back of the car, the C-pillar really completes the design, that area from the back door to the trunk. This one has a very sweeping one. It reminds me of like very 70s European cars, like your 70s and 80s Saabs, etc. Love this design. I love the look of it. It's futuristic and with a little bit of reverence to the past. I think they're talking about 400 horsepower equivalent, 275-mile range, $59,000. Still a little pricey for the average person, but it's a great kind of showcase car for that technology and for Volvo.
Yeah.
Nissan Ariya. This is everyone's talking about this one. This is their first foray into kind of the compact SUV. They've had a great increase in technology prowess on the second generation Leaf. If you go to our YouTube page, you can watch Catherine's review of it. This is a pretty sweet looking car, pretty sweet looking vehicle. Again, probably not the cheapest one you're going to find out there, but if you consider your maintenance cost savings, then that monthly payment isn't so bad when you consider that. So I think there's going to be some cost of ownership calculations coming that all of a sudden may say, you know what, this monthly payment on the vehicle is offset by all my savings on fuel, et cetera, et cetera. So something to keep in mind. This could be a good family hauler, a good practical solution. I'm a Mercedes fan. I've always been. My mom's boss as a kid had one of the original SLs, just fantastic car. When Mercedes goes into doing something in technology, they're going to do it and do it well. This is called, I think, the EQC, if I recall. It's going to be another 400 horsepower. Yeah, EQC. It's going to be another 400 horsepower vehicle. I think the front end is really different for Mercedes. These German car companies always kind of have an evolution in design, not a revolution. This one starts to push the envelope a little bit, and I like what I see. This one's probably not going to be cheap. So I don't know if I see a price on it, but It's not going to be cheap.
Yeah,
so we can ooh and ah it. Volkswagen is being committed to saying the majority of their fleet over the next few years is going to convert to electric. This is the ID4. I think actually I have to say some reviews out of some of their EVs coming out of Europe right now, the quality and maybe fit and finish is not great. So it sounds like they have a little bit of work to do, but this is going to be made, I believe, in their second Chattanooga, Tennessee plant. It's supposed to come out 2022, and it's going to be around 40 grand. I don't know if we have too much, except for the fact that it's a 5-seat crossover, and they're talking about 250 miles on a single charge. Not bad. If it has DC fast charging, where you can do 80% of the battery in 15, 20 minutes, then it becomes a practical solution for the long-haul vacation. So we'll keep an eye on this one, because this one is probably worth talking about more for our followers. If anyone saw Avengers Endgame, Tony Stark drove up in one of these bad boys, the Audi e-tron GT. Audi's designs lately have just been off the charts fantastic. There's a reference here to, I think, the 80s Quattro design. I love it. I think it's a fantastic vehicle. Audi has been doing everything right. They're not known for their EVs yet, but I think they will be. And this one's, you're going to pay for it. You're going to pay 100 grand. But you know what? There's some bankers out there and some venture capitalists that could probably afford it. So I have a feeling this one will do well.
It's supposed to compete with the Taycan, which is 200 grand. So if you can get 200K performance for 100 grand, yeah, I want it. I would go for that.
And the Taycan's beautiful, by the way.
Yeah, well, so is this.
Oh, it's absolutely. No, I don't disagree.
600 horse. All right.
That's all?
0 to 60 in 3 seconds.
I'll race it with a Hummer. Okay, I think we only have one or two more. Let's see. Go to this one I don't know too much about, but Volvo's committed to going all electric, I think, by 2030. So I don't know the relationship between Volvo and Polestar will be. We're going to be talking about Sweden here in a few minutes, so this will probably be a very popular vehicle back home in Sweden. Sweden is owned by the Chinese right now, and I got to give credit. I think Geely owns them, and I could be wrong in that, but I think the Chinese have done a great job of unleashing the engineering potential out of Sweden. And the Volvos, both conventional gas-powered ones and electric, are just really stunning designs lately. I think it's a beautiful looking vehicle. It's going to be one of the safest ones out there, and safety should always be a consideration for family. It's going to be a little pricey on $50,000, but this is one where, if you're thinking about 4 or 5 years from now, a 2-year-old Volvo EV would probably be a very good bargain for you and your family. So we'll keep an eye on this one as time goes on.
Yeah.
And Rivian, I read an article in Charged EVs a couple months ago about Rivian. They've been behind the scenes designing their vehicles for about 10 years now. And they designed them in ways that you couldn't even think about. You can run with absolute confidence a Rivian through a creek, according to the article, and not worry about the battery or worry about the motor or anything. This thing was completely designed to be an all-new revolutionary type of truck / SUV. This thing looks great. It reminds me of the Jeep Grand Wagoneers. Mm-hmm. It's a fantastic look. This one's not going to be cheap. It's about $72,500 for this SUV version. There's going to be a pickup version as well. Both of them are great looking. Ford is a big investor, so I think the quality is going to be there. There was ideas that there was going to be a Lincoln SUV based on a Rivian, but I think because of the COVID crisis and the economy, that's been scrapped.
Oh.
Oh, it'll come back. No, a couple more, right?
Yeah, I think so.
The Hyundai Ioniq. This has been around as a while as a hybrid, and then I think a plug-in hybrid. This is going to be their full battery electric one. I think the Pirates of Clean Tech will be doing a review of the Hyundai Kona full BEV in a couple weeks, so look out for that. This is probably going to be the more affordable family sedan. It's probably about the size of a Volt, so not quite a full-size mid-size sedan, but a little bit on the smaller side. But 175-mile range, probably priced in the low 30s, and then with tax credits, you're probably getting an electric vehicle for mid-20s. That's a pretty good bargain. So we'll definitely keep an eye on this one, and I'll like to take it for a spin when it comes out. And then this god-awful, hideous thing. Either BMW either love the design or hate it. You know, some of their latest sedans are gorgeous. I think the new 8 Series sedan, just absolutely gorgeous car. This thing, I don't know, just
I like it.
I don't know. I just feel like it reminds me of like first generation Dustbusters.
Because the front end, you gotta have
the front end. Like I said, I love C pillars, right? I don't like that back end. They're stealing it off the Nissan SUVs, by the way. This one, not a fan of it. It just doesn't scream to me it's a BMW. So I guess it's a conversation stimulator, and it's certainly done that at the very least.
Look at how the windows blend together. That's really cool. And it's got to have that stupid grill. I don't know why an EV needs a grill, but it's got to have that BMW two-lobe grill.
Between kidneys. But actually, so there is a little bit of air intake still needed for an electric vehicle.
Well, okay.
Some of them have little vents that actually pop in and out, so there is some need for it.
Okay.
But anyways, we went motorcycles and cars for a long time, so we're probably boring our listeners. But you know what? We like it. Anyways, I thought this was a really good article. When Rolling Stone is talking about electric vehicles, that also tells you something. So get ready, America, because it's coming and it's not stopping.
Oh, yeah.
Anyways, anything else, Lucas?
About the cars?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to buy like so many of these. I mean, I can't wait until, Porsche Taycan is like a normal thing to see, So I love to see performance cars like the e-tron coming out, and I love to see them because they're going to push price down so I can actually afford one of them. And then, I just love to see the range getting larger, the prices coming down. This is great. We want to see more electrification. Electrification will help us with our renewable evolution as a species. So, I love this. Love to see some move forward. I've been very happy about the car companies moving towards EVs, and happy to see this going on.
I may talk about this next week, by the way, but Polestar actually came out with a transparency document about the manufacturing process and the carbon footprint from it. And it's really a bit eye-awakening. And some friends of mine kind of texted over the last couple of days talking about it. I may bring the article up next week. But, it's not the perfect solution in electric vehicles if you totally want to reduce your carbon footprint. And I'm not even talking about the power source. I'm talking about the manufacturing process.
Yeah.
So Polestar kind of called out everybody to be more transparent about the carbon footprint from their manufacturing, and hats off to them for that.
Well, but you're not filling your vehicle with gasoline that came from oil from the Middle East. So that alone just makes me happy. So
fair enough. No, absolutely agree with all of that. But anyways, I think I'll put it on my list for next week's article. So awesome. Listeners, remind me to do that. So I just want to go and I think I brought up the World Economic Forum a couple minutes ago. This was an article from their website, and it's talking about Sweden and how Sweden has been doing so much in terms. The article is actually called Transforming Homes into Power Stations, How Sweden is Disrupting Energy Production. I think it is written 9/21. Is this Harry Kretschmer? Correct. I thought it was a great article. First off, 54% of Sweden's power is already coming from renewable sources. Now, because Sweden is in the heart of Scandinavia, they have a lot of forests and they have a lot of rivers. So the majority of that renewable power is hydropower and biomass. But they're talking about how energy consumers are going to be power makers themselves, and they actually use a term called prosumers.
Mm-hmm.
And they already have kind of a precedence for doing this based upon technology that's a kind of a runoff of the 1940s and 50s. Something we don't hear much about these days, but older cities like in the Rust Belt still talk about district heating. So some towns, some middle-sized downtowns, for example, will have one power plant that heats all the buildings. Manhattan still has district heating in some sections, and I think that's changing. But Sweden has been really become the master of it, where they use excess heat in the power plants to heat the buildings and homes around the power plant. They've been doing that since the late 1940s. So what they really want to do is, I think they already have 500 district heating systems set up. This article is really fun read. It's a really nice read, talking about the fact that how they're going to actually use the home itself to take distributed generation to the next level, where not just with smart meters, but they're going to be putting in more geothermal, more capacity to generate power to sell it back to the consumer. And because the EU has a mandate where I think 30% of all power in the EU has to be renewable by 2030, Sweden is like kind of one of the leaders, making up for other countries that are behind on the mandate. So the UN and the World Economic Forum and everyone has been looking at Sweden as an example. So if you could just scroll up to this house diagram, there's a house. They'll go down a little bit.
Shoot. Yeah, it's down.
Sorry about that. Yeah, so here they're talking about just, again, using technology and creating like a microgrid within like an apartment complex that would do everything from being smart about when it powers your car, charges your car, to when it has optimizers for bringing wind and hydropower from the grid into the house, and then when other intelligent sources of smart metering are going to take in. So they think that they could really reduce energy consumption, waste energy in terms of energy not being utilized by anyone, and district heating will still be a part of this. So just really fascinating look at Sweden. I don't know, Lucas, if you had any thoughts on it.
Yeah, so this is great. I mean, this kind of setup is exactly what FERC is trying to catch up to. This is exactly what the FERC enables, that you can install these optimizers and you can have all these DERs in your building, and then you can plug right into the grid and you can get compensated for being a part of the grid. Prosumers has been a concept that's been around for a while. We really need prosumers in the energy industry. I mean, we need consumers becoming savvy, having equipment, becoming part of the grid, becoming part of the system. This is great. I mean, district heating, again, like you said, it's an old technology, and it works, and it really works well where population density is high. So this is another argument for cities, why we should have cities. We should have high density of population, because then we can all share resources. We can make things like, district power and the use of waste heat from, say, industrial or energy generating processes, and use it. So, it works in certain situations. And then the only thing I don't like is the use of biomass. So, in rural kind of low density situations, biomass works, and biomass means you grow things and then you burn them for heat, and then you grow more things, and so the carbon just goes around in a circle. So it's perfectly sustainable, but it just doesn't scale well, right? We can't all cut down all the forests and burn them every year. It just doesn't work. So with the amount of people we have, so that's the only real criticism I have. But
I agree with that.
Really
A
cool.
country, sorry to interrupt. A country like Sweden, I agree, is perfect for biomass because they're small enough and they're diligent enough to make sure that they have replacement of what they've consumed.
Right.
So I agree 100%. But there is some biomass efforts in the United States using like switchgrass that's grown in the off seasons in colder weather states, et cetera. And, those make sense to me because that's about smart resource allocation. You're not taking farmland off, off utilization. You're actually giving farmers another source of income in the off season. So there are things. I think it's a fun story to look at. It's actually, I think, talking about biomass is a great segue to the next article too.
Yeah.
This one is from, again, news source for us, Forest News. Julie Mullins. I can't remember the date of this one, but UN Green Cities Initiative to promote forestry and sustainable food systems. I think it's one of my personal goals this maybe this season and next season for Pirates is to talk a little bit about sustainable food generation and consumption. And I like the story because it just talks about the UN initiative. I think there's 100 cities that are signed up on the UN Smart Cities initiative, and they want to get to 1,000 in 10 years. And effectively, that the organization within the UN called the Food and Agricultural Organization, or FAO, is accelerating efforts to meet the UN sustainable goals before they expire in 2030. And what they're doing with that is that they're going into cities and they're creating small micro farms. I think they call them I can't remember what they call them, urban ag farms. And these are actually out there, and people are having access in poor communities within cities. And a lot of them could think of like the poor neighborhoods in, say, Rio in Brazil, for example, that these people would actually have the ability to source locally produced. When we say local, like really in the neighborhood, vegetables and fruits, etc. And the UN is really want to kind of build that out a little bit, because if the closer you can grow food to its end market, to its end user, the less you're hurting the environment, because transportation and logistics are kind of taken out of the equation.
Yeah.
So, the carbon footprint from food manufacturing really lessens in this environment. And then add to it, like cities in the Rust Belt, for example, they call them food deserts, where some neighborhoods in Detroit, Cleveland didn't even have grocery stores. So a lot of NGOs and neighborhood development corporations are doing a great job of putting urban gardens in place where people have access to grow their own fruits and vegetables, and then they have farmers markets right there. So these initiatives, they're small, they're individual, they're unique. They have to be unique and customized on a city basis. But when you aggregate them through an organization like the UN's FAO, then all of a sudden, you're going to have meaningful results, and you're going to have transparent results. So I was really happy to see this article. I do want to talk about food and sustainability as time goes on. So well done, and maybe we'll be getting more from Forest News in the future.
Yeah, I love looking at articles about the UN because they have such a holistic view of things that you don't get anywhere else. I mean, they talk about this as sustainably produced food, right? They're talking about ecological management of water resources, sustainable land use, expansion of green spaces, including urban forestry, economic, social, and ecological gains comprehensively. So they take a holistic view of things. I mean, everything is connected. If you change the energy system, it's connected to other things and has other impacts. So you have to start considering these things. And only these large step back groups like you've brought up here, like the UN and the World Economic Forum, are able to look holistically at things. And then, your design might change a little bit because you're looking at things very broadly. So I thought this was great.
Thanks. Well said, Lucas. Well said. The UN gets shortchanged a lot because every time someone criticizes it, it gets exacerbated throughout the world in the media.
Yeah. But
they do a lot of good between the World Health Organization, even despite maybe some criticism on COVID. They've done to inoculate children from and vaccinate children from diseases that should have been stopped 20 years ago.
Well, like COVID.
These food initiatives. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
That later. That'll be on our other podcast. I think UN does a great job, and it's nice to see this. And I encourage people who are watching this in different cities and towns to get involved with your local sustainable food initiatives, because you can really change the health and welfare of people who potentially don't have access to it right now.
Are we starting a COVID podcast? I hope not.
No, that was pure diversion on my part. Actually, you know what? I see my City Parks Foundation baseball cap. So it's perfect time to put that on.
Shameless plug.
Anyone who's listening to our podcast, please go on City Parks Foundation's Summer Stage YouTube page, and our free Jubilee Gala is still going to be free online for the next 25 days. A fantastic concert celebrating the vitality of New York City. So anyone in the world could watch it this year. It's got Sting, Norah Jones, got some incredible performances and some great speeches as well. So
what? You
didn't like Sting?
That? And Norah Jones?
Yes.
Awesome.
Sting actually opens it and closes it. It's fantastic.
Awesome. All
And
right.
it's perfect time to talk about that because Sting did that fantastic Jaguar commercial about 15 years ago. Even though there wasn't a Jaguar in our article, they do have the E-Pace, great, probably one of the best looking electric vehicles out there.
Cool.
All right.
All right. So don't forget to subscribe, follow us, click the follow button, click the subscribe button, click the alarm bell so you get notifications, and then you'll know first, and you'll get the news here first, and the best discussion and analysis of today's leading clean tech issues. We're gonna have an awesome guest next week. It's gonna be cool. Don't miss it.
Yes, and on that, send us feedback about what areas of clean tech, sustainability, and ESG you would like us to focus on, because we really want to satisfy the needs of our listening audience. And you guys are great, and we appreciate kind of the numbers are growing, and we're having a lot of fun, and we want to continue to do so, and we want to bring you along for the ride.
And send us any questions you have about community solar, because we're going to have an expert on next week. He's going to answer all your questions.
And don't forget to answer the question, who is your favorite rock drummer, or who is the greatest rock drummer?
Ringo?
Please, he didn't say that, did he? Did I just hear him say that?
Can I say that?
No, you cannot say Ringo. That's
All
not
right.
any conversation. Although I love the Beatles. So.
All right.
Anyways, thank you again. And this weekend, look for our next EV and hybrid review on our YouTube page. We'll put it on Twitter. Probably won't put it on podcast, but it'll be out there. And thanks. We've been having a lot of fun and getting great feedback on that as well.
Yar.
Now, lastly, have to do it. I actually remember this time. The views and opinions expressed by Lucas and I are solely those of ourselves and not any organization we may be affiliated with. Although I don't think we said anything too damning today. You're kind of praising everybody, including all the
never know.
But thanks again to everybody. We've been having fun, and it's been a great episode. So with that, I am Eric Planey.
I'm Lucas Finko. Adios.
And we are the Pirates of Clean Tech.
Yar.
Arr.